Hello, welcome back to another Read With Me session on the power of positive thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. I'm excited to dive into chapter 15 with you, which is called How to Get People to Like You. All right, you're ready? I'm ready. Hope you've had a beautiful day and congratulations on taking this, 20, 25, 30 minutes out of your day into investing into your growth and your personal development and into you and your future. So let's get right into it. My name is Vanessa Black. If it's your first time joining us, I'm so excited that you are here and happy that you are, again, investing into your growth. So let's dive right into it, okay? How to get people to like you. We might as well admit it. We want people to like us. You may hear someone say, I don't care whether people like me or not, but whenever you hear anyone say that, just put it down as a fact that he is not really telling the truth. The psychologist William James said, one of the deepest drives of human nature is the desire to be appreciated, the longing to be liked, to be held in esteem, to be a sought-after person is fundamental in us. A poll was taken among some high school students on the question, what do you most desire? By overwhelming majority, the students voted that they wanted to be popular. The same urge is in older people as well. Indeed, it is doubtful if anybody ever outlives a desire to be well thought of, to be highly regarded, or to have the affection of his associates. To be master the art of popularity, be artless. Strive deliberately after popularity, and the chances are you will never attain it. But become one of those rare personalities about whom people say, he certainly has something. And you can be certain you are on the way to having people like you. I must warn you, however, that despite your attainments in popularity, you will never get everybody to like you. There is a curious quirk in human nature whereby some people just naturally won't like you. A quatrain inscribed on a wall at Oxford says, I do not love thee, Dr. Fell, the reason why I cannot tell. But this alone I know full well, I do not love thee, Dr. Fell. That verse is very subtle. The author did not like Dr. Fell. He didn't know why, but he just knew he didn't like him. It was most likely an unreasonable dislike, for undoubtedly Dr. Fell was a very nice person. Perhaps if the author had known him better, he would have liked him. But poor Dr. Fell never did become popular with the author of those lines. It may have been due simply to a lack of rapprochement, that baffling mechanism by which we either do or do not click with certain people. Even the Bible recognizes this unhappy fact about human nature, for it says, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. The Bible is a very realistic book, and it knows people, their infinite possibilities as well as their imperfections. The Bible advised the disciples that if they went into a village and after trying their best to get along with people still couldn't do so, they were to shake off the very dust of the village from their feet, and whosoever will not receive you where you go out of that city, shake off that very dust from your feet for a testimony against them. This is all by way of saying that you will be wise if you do not let it too seriously affect you, if you do not achieve perfect popularity with everyone. However, there are certain formulas and procedures which, if followed faithfully, can make you a person whom other people like. You can enjoy satisfactory personal relationships even if you are a difficult person or by nature shy and retiring, even unsocial. You can make of yourself one who enjoys easy, normal, natural, and pleasing relationships with others. I cannot argue you too strongly to consider the importance of this subject and to give time and attention to its mastery, for you will never be fully happy or successful until you do. Failure in this capacity will adversely affect you psychologically. To be liked is of profounder importance than mere ego satisfaction. As necessary as this is to your success in life, normal and satisfactory personal relations are even more important. The feeling of not being wanted or needed is one of the most devastating of all human reactions. To the degree to which you are sought after or needed by other people, will you become a fully released person. The lone wolf, the isolated personality, the retiring individual, these people suffer a misery which is difficult to describe. In self-defense, they retire even farther within themselves. Their ingrowing introverted nature is denied the normal development which the outgoing self-giving person experiences. Unless the personality is drawn out of itself and can be of value to someone, it may sicken and die. It's purpose, right? Unless the personality is drawn out of itself and can be of value to someone, it may sicken and die. The feeling of not being wanted or needed produces frustration, aging, illness. If you have a feeling of uselessness, if nobody wants you or needs you, you really ought to do something about it. It is not only a pathetic way to live, but is serious psychologically. Those who deal with the problems of human nature constantly encounter this problem and its unfortunate results. For example, at a Rotary Club luncheon, he's always at those, in a certain city, two physicians were at my table. One, an elderly man who had been retired for several years, the other, the most popular young doctor in town. The young doctor, looking frazzled, dashed in late and slumped down with a weary sigh. If only the telephone would stop ringing, he complained. I can't get anywhere because people call me all the time. I wish I could put a silencer on the telephone. The old doctor spoke up quietly. I know how you feel, Jim said. I used to feel that way myself, but be thankful the telephone does ring. Be glad people want and need you. Then he added pathetically, nobody ever calls me anymore. I would like to hear the telephone ring again. Nobody wants me and nobody needs me. I'm a has-been. All of us at the table who sometimes feel a bit worn by numerous activities did a lot of thinking as we listened to the old doctor. A middle-aged woman complained to me that she didn't feel well. She was dissatisfied and unhappy. My husband is dead, the children are grown, and there is no place for me anymore. People treat me kindly, but they are indifferent. Everyone has his own interests, and nobody needs me. Nobody wants me. I wonder, could that be a reason I do not feel well? She asked. Indeed, that could very likely be an important reason. In a business office, the founder of the firm, just past 70, was walking relentlessly and aimlessly around. He talked with me while his son, present head of the business, whom I had come to see, was on the telephone. The older man said gloomily, why don't you write a book on how to retire? That is what I need to know. I thought it was going to be wonderful to give up the burdens of the job, he continues, but now I find that nobody is interested in anything I say. I used to think I was a popular fellow, but now when I come down here and sit around the office, everyone says, hello, then they forget me. I might as well stay away altogether for all they care. My son is running the business and he is doing a good job of it, but he concluded pathetically, I like to think they needed me a little bit. These people are suffering one of the most pathetic and unhappy experiences in this life. Their basic desire is to be sought after, and the desire is not being satisfied. They want people to appreciate them. The personality longs for esteem, but it isn't only in retirement that this situation develops. A girl of 21 told me that she had been unwanted ever since birth. Someone had given her the notion she was an unwanted child. This serious idea had sunk into her subconscious, giving her a profound sense of inferiority and self-depreciation. It made her shy and backward, causing her to retreat into herself. She became lonely and unhappy and was, in fact, an underdeveloped personality. The cure for her condition was to revamp her life spiritually, especially her thinking, which process in time made her a well-liked person by setting her personality free of herself. Countless other people, not particularly victims of deep, unconscious psychological conflicts, have never mastered the knack of being popular. They try hard enough. They even go to extremes, often acting in a manner they do not really enjoy, but which they employ only because of their intense desire to have people like them. Everywhere today, we see people putting on an act because of their inordinate desire for popularity in the superficial sense in which the word is often used in modern society. The fact is that popularity can be attained by a few simple, natural, normal, and easily mastered techniques. Practice them diligently and you can become a well-liked person. First, become a comfortable person. That is, one with whom people can associate with a sense of strain. Of some persons, it is said, you can never quite get next to him. There's always a barrier that you can't get over. A comfortable person is easygoing and natural. He has a pleasant, kindly, genial way about him. Being with him is not unlike wearing an old hat or an old pair of shoes or an easy old coat. A stiff, reserved, unresponsive individual never meshes into the group. He's always just a bit out of it. You never quite know how to take him or how he will react. You just aren't easy like with him. Some young people were talking about a 70-year-old boy whom they liked very much. Of him, they said, he is good company. He is a good sport. He is easy to be with. It is very important to cultivate the quality of being natural. Usually that sort of individual is large-souled. Little people who are much concerned about how you treat them, who are jealous of their place or position, who are meticulously stand on their prerogatives, are stiff and easily offended. A man who is an outstanding example of these truths is James A. Farley, former Postmaster General of the United States. I met Mr. Farley for the first time a number of years ago. Months later, I met him in a large crowd of people, and he called me by name. Being human, I never forget that, and it is one reason I've always liked Mr. Farley. An interesting incident illustrates the secret of this man, who is an expert in how to get people to like him. I was to speak in Philadelphia at a book and author luncheon along with Mr. Farley and two other authors. I did not actually witness the scene I am about to describe, as I was late in arriving, but my publisher did. The speaker at this luncheon were walking along the hotel corridor together when they passed a maid standing by a cart loaded with sheets, towels, and other equipment with which she was servicing the rooms. She was paying no attention to this group of people as they turned aside to avoid her cart. Mr. Farley walked up to her, put out his hand, and said, "Hello there. How are you?" "I'm Jim Farley. What's your name?" "Glad to see you." My publisher looked back at her as the group passed down the hall. The girl's mouth was wide with astonishment, and her face broke into a beautiful smile. It was an excellent example of how an unegotistical, comfortable, outgoing person is successful in personal relationships. A university psychology department conducted an analysis of the personality traits by which people are liked or disliked. "100 traits were scientifically analyzed, and it was reported that one must have 46 favorable traits in order to be liked. It is rather discouraging to realize that you must have so large a number of characteristics to be popular. Christianity, however, teaches that one basic trait will go far toward getting people to like you. That trait is a sincere and forthright interest in and love. Forthright interest in and love for people. Perhaps if you cultivate this basic trait, other traits will naturally develop. If you are not the comfortable type of person, I suggest that you make a study of your personality with a view towards eliminating conscious and unconscious elements of strain which may exist. Do not assume that the reason people do not like you is because of something wrong with them. Assume instead that the trouble is within yourself and determine to find and eliminate it. This will require scrupulous honesty, and it may also involve the assistance of personality experts. The so-called scratchy elements in your personality may be qualities which you have taken on through the years. Perhaps they have been assumed defensively, or they may be the result of attitudes developed in your younger days. Regardless of the origin, they can be eliminated by a scientific study of yourself and by your recognition of the necessity for change, followed by a process of personality rehabilitation. A man came to our clinic at the church seeking help in the problem of personal relationships. About 35 years of age, he was the type of person who you would certainly look at twice, if not 3 times. He was splendidly proportioned and impressive. Superficially regarding him, it was surprising that people should not like him. But he proceeded to outline an unhappy and continuous set of circumstances and instances to illustrate his dismal failure in human relations. I do my best, he explained. I have tried to put into practice the rules I have been taught about getting along with people, but get nowhere with the effort. People just don't like me, and what is more, I am aware of it. After talking with him, it was not difficult to understand the trouble. There was in his manner of speech a persistently critical attitude, thinly veiled, but nonetheless apparent. He had an unattractive manner pursuing his lips, which indicated a kind of primness or reproof for everybody, as if he felt just a bit superior and disdainful toward other people. In fact, there was about him a noticeable attitude of superiority. He was a very rigid, no flexibility of personality. Isn't there some way to change myself so that people will like me? He demanded. Isn't there some way I can stop unconsciously rubbing people the wrong way? The young man was decidedly self-centered and egotistical. The person he really liked was himself. Every statement, every attitude was unconsciously measured in terms of how it reacted on himself. We had to teach him to love other people and to forget himself, which was, of course, a complete reversal of his development. It was vital, however, to the solution of his problem. I found that this young man was irritable with people and he picked on them in his own mind, though no outward conflicts with other persons developed. Inwardly, he was trying to make everybody over to suit himself. Unconsciously, people realized this, though perhaps they did not define the trouble. Barriers were erected in their minds towards him. Since he was being unpleasant to people in his thoughts, it followed that he was less than warm in his personal attitudes. He was polite enough and managed not to be boorish and unpleasant, but people unconsciously felt coolness in him, so gave him the brush off, of which he complained. The reason they did so was because in his mind he had brushed them off. He liked himself too well, and to build up his self-esteem, he disliked others. He was suffering from self-love, a chief cure for which is a practice of love for others. He was bewildered and baffled when he outlined his difficulty, but he was sincere and meant business. He practiced the suggested techniques for developing love of others in place of self-love. It requires some fundamental changes to accomplish this, but he succeeded in doing so. One method suggested that at night before retiring, he make a list of persons he had met during the day, as for example, the bus driver or the newsboy. He was to picture mentally each person whose name appeared on the list, and as he brought each face up before him, he was to think a kindly thought about that person. Then he was to pray for each one. He was to pray around his little world. Each of us has his own world, people with whom we do business or are associated in one way or another. For example, the first person outside the family whom this young man saw in the morning was the elevator man in his apartment house. He had not been in the habit of saying anything to him beyond a perfunctory growl of a good morning. Now he took the time to have a little chat with the elevator man. He asked him about his family and about his interests. He found that the elevator operator had an interesting point of view and some experiences which were quite fascinating. He began to see new values in a person whom to him previously had been a mechanical robot who ran the elevator up and down to his floor. He actually began to like the elevator operator and in turn the elevator man, who had formed a pretty accurate opinion of the young man, began to revise his views. They established a friendly relationship. So the process went from person to person. One day the young man said to me, I have found that the world is filled with interesting people and I never realized it before. When he made the observation, he proved that he was losing himself. And when he did that, as the Bible so wisely tells us, he found himself. In losing himself, he found himself and lots of new friends besides. People learned to like him. Learning to pray for people was important in his rehabilitation. For when you pray for anyone, you attempt to modify your personal attitude towards them. You lift the relationship thereby to a higher level. The best in the other person begins to flow out towards you as your best flows towards him. I like that. The best in another person begins to flow outwards towards you as your best flows towards him. In the meeting of the best in each, a higher quality of understanding is established. Essentially, getting people to like you is merely the other side of liking them. One of the most popular men who lived in the United States within the lifetime of most of us was the late Will Rogers. One of the most characteristic statements he ever made was, "I never met a man I didn't like." That may have been a slight exaggeration, but I'm sure Will Rogers did not regard it as such. That is the way he felt about people. And as a result, people opened up to him like flowers to the sun. Sometimes a weak objection is offered that it is difficult to like some people. Granted, some people are by nature more likable than others. Nevertheless, a serious attempt to know any individual will reveal qualities in him that are admirable, even lovable. A man had the problem of conquering feelings of irritation towards persons with whom he was associated. For some people, he had a very profound dislike. They irritated him intensely, but he conquered these feelings simply by making an exhaustive list of everything he could possibly admire about each person who annoyed him. Daily, he attempted to add to this list. He was surprised to discover that people whom he thought he did not like at all proved to have many pleasing qualities. In fact, he was at a loss to understand how he ever disliked them after becoming conscious of their attractive qualities. Of course, while he was making these discoveries about them, they in return were finding new and likable qualities in him. If you have gone through life up to this point without having established satisfactory human relationships, do not assume that you cannot change, but it will be necessary to take very definite steps towards solving the problem. You can change and become a popular person, well-liked and esteemed, if you are willing to make the effort. May I remind you, as I remind myself, that one of the greatest tragedies of the average person is a tendency to spend our whole lives perfecting our faults. We develop a fault and we nurse it and cultivate it and never change it. Like a needle caught in the groove of a defective record on a gramophone, it plays the same old tune over and over again. You must lift the needle out of the groove, then you will have disharmony no longer, but harmony. Don't spend more of your life perfecting faults in human relations. Spend the rest of your life perfecting your great capacities for friendliness, for personal relationships are vitally important for successful living. Still, another important factor in getting people to like you is to practice building up the ego of other persons. The ego, being the essence of our personalities, is sacred to us. There is in every person a normal desire for a feeling of self-importance. If I deflate your ego and therefore your self-importance, though you may laugh it off, I have deeply wounded you. In fact, I have shown disrespect for you, and while you might exercise charity towards me, even so, unless you are finely developed spiritually, you are not going to like me very well. On the other hand, if I elevate your self-respect and contribute to your feeling of personal worth, I am showing you high esteem for your ego. I have helped you to be your best self, and therefore you appreciate what I have done. You are grateful to me, you like me for it. The deflation of another person's ego may be mildly done, perhaps, but one can never evaluate how deep the depreciation goes from even a remark or an attitude that is not meant to be unkind. Here is the way in which ego is often deflated. The next time you're in a group and someone tells a joke and everybody laughs with appreciation and pleasure, except yourself. When the laughter has died down, say patronizingly, "Well, that is a pretty good joke, all right. I saw it in a magazine last month." Of course, it will make you feel quite important to let others know of your superior knowledge. But how does it make the man feel who told the joke? You have robbed him of the satisfaction of having told a good story. You have crowded him out of his brief moment in the limelight and usurped attention to yourself. In fact, you have taken the wind out of his sails and left him flat and deflated. He enjoyed his momentary little prominence, but you took it away from him. Nobody in that group is going to like you for what you did, and certainly not the man whose story you spoiled. Whether you like the joke or not, let the storyteller and the others enjoy it. Remember, he may be a little embarrassed and shy. It would have done him good to receive have received a response. Don't deflate people. Build them up, and they will love you for it. Build up people. While writing this chapter, I enjoyed a visit with an old and dear friend, Dr. John W. Hoffman, one-time president of Ohio University. As I sat with him in Pasadena, California, I realized once again how much his great personality has always meant to me. Many years ago, on the night before my graduation from college, he had a banquet at our fraternity house at which he was present and made a speech. After dinner, he asked me to walk with him to the president's house. It was a beautiful moonlight in June. All the way up the hill, he talked to me about life and its opportunities and told me what a thrill awaited me as I entered the outside world. As we stood in front of his house, he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Norman, I have always liked you. I believe in you. You have great possibilities. I shall always be proud of you. You have got it in you." Of course, he overestimated me, but that is infinitely better than to depreciate a person. It being June and the night before graduation, an excitement began being in my heart. My sentiments were pretty close to the surface, and I said goodnight to him through a midst of tears, which I tried to conceal. It has been many, many years since then, but I never forget what he said, nor how he said it on that June night long ago. I have loved him all across the years. I discovered that he made similar statements to many other boys and girls long since become men and women, and they too love him because he respected their personalities and was constantly building them up. Through the years, he would write to me and to the others congratulating us on some little thing that we had done, and a word of approval from him meant much. Little wonder this honored guide of youth has the affection and devotion of thousands of people whose lives he touched. Whomever you help to build up to become better, stronger, finer person will give you his undying devotion. Build up as many people as you can. Do it unselfishly. Do it because you like them and because you see possibilities in them. Do this and you will never lack for friends. You will always be well thought of. Build people up and love them genuinely. Do them good in their esteem, and affection will flow back towards you. The basic principles of getting people to like you and need no prolonged and labored emphasis, for they are very simple and easily illustrate their own truth. However, I list 10 practical rules for getting the esteem of others. The soundness of these principles have been demonstrated innumerable times. Practice them until you become expert at them, and people will like you. All right, to conclude this awesome chapter, we're going to dive into the 10 principles of getting people to like you. All right, you ready? Ready? Got your pen and paper? All right. Number 1, learn to remember names. Inefficiency at this point may indicate that your interest is not sufficiently outgoing. A man's name is very important to him. Number 2, be a comfortable person so there is no strain in being with you. Be an old shoe, old hat kind of individual. 3, acquire the quality of relaxed easygoingness so that things do not ruffle you. 4, don't be egotistical. Guard against giving the impression that you know it all. Be natural and normally humble. 5, cultivate the quality of being interesting so that people will want to be with you and get something of stimulating value from their association with you. 6, study to get the scratchy elements out of your personality, even those of which you may be unconscious. 7, sincerely attempt to heal. On an honest Christian basis, every misunderstanding you have had or now have, drain off your grievances. 8, practice liking people until you learn to do so genuinely. Remember, Will Rogers said, "I never met a man I didn't like." Try to be that way. Number 9, never miss an opportunity to say a word of congratulation upon anyone's achievement or express sympathy in sorrow or disappointment. Number 10, get a deep spiritual experience so that you have something to give people that will help them be stronger and meet life more effectively. Give strength to people and they will give affection to you. And that concludes awesome chapter 15, how to get people to like you. Let me know which one out of the 1 to 10 you feel like that was the one that spoke to you most. That's something that maybe you feel like, okay, I want to get better at this. I want to focus on practicing this. I want to improve in this matter. One of the first ones that he said about remembering names, a great practice that I remember learning to remember names, okay, is when you first meet a person, say their name like 3 times in the first, 10 seconds of the conversation. So if I meet somebody and I'm like, hey, my name is Vanessa. What's your name? And they tell you your name. Hey, my name is Stacy. Nice to meet you. I'm going to repeat her name in that next sentence, right? I'm going to be like, that's so awesome, Stacy. Well, tell me, Stacy, what do what do you do? Or whatever the question is. So I just said it 2 additional times. And the more I can say it consciously, the more I'm going to remember it. It's a great little practice to remember people's names, if that's something that you have trouble with. But yeah, definitely practice that. I need to start practicing that again. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that chapter. Let me know what you got out of it. I appreciate you. I love you. You're perfect. And I'm so excited for all the lives that you will continue to impact by just being you, by just smiling, by just loving, by just really focusing on your personal development and your growth, and it's just going to come naturally. So super excited. I'll see you in the next Read With Me session on the power of positive thinking. We're going to be diving into chapter 16, which is called Prescription for Heartache. Prescription for Heartache. All right. And that's chapter 16. We got chapter 17, how to draw upon that higher power. And then that might be the last chapter of the book. Yeah, chapter 17 is the last. So we have 2 more Read With Me sessions for this particular book. Okay, very exciting. And then next month's book, Read With Me session, the next month and a half, we are diving into, for the personal freedom book, is Life Force by Tony Robbins. It is his newest book, How New Breakthroughs in Precision Medicine Can Transform the Quality of Your Life and Those You Love. I'm so excited about this. Super pumped up. He interviewed like the top doctors in so many different areas. And if you're looking to improve your health, live lot longer, or if you have somebody in your family you're looking to help with their health, or just to have this understanding and awareness of the new things that are out there today, brand new things like stem cells and all of that, then definitely join us with this Read With Me session. And Isabel is going to be reading Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. So that's going to be for the financial freedom book of the month in June. And we're going to go to about June to mid-July, since these are big books, as you can see here, pretty thick, but got it all tapped up. So cannot wait. Again, I love you, appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next Read With Me session. All right, take care.